Hello, Shalom Ola. Welcome to the Spiritual Life with international mystic, medium, clairvoyant, Travis Tidwell, aka ceremonial magician. I do it all, but I'm here with this podcast tonight. I'm sharing with you information. But before we start, I want to give thanks to my divine source, Yahweh, our Father in heaven. I want to give thanks to Sacred Dragon, who also powers this information, as well as my priestess Athena, who's my executive producer, is also my daughter. And I want to thank all those in Sacred Dragon and the new members I just got. And I want to thank everybody who's been checking out my podcast. I want to really thank everybody again who got their level 1 and 2 Reiki off episode 15. It was just incredible, some of the feedback and some of the things that happened there. This podcast, I wanted to talk a little bit about spiritual awakening. I talked to a lot of people go, oh my God, my life's changing. I see things, these number 1111 keeps coming to me, or the number 444, or, whatever it is. There's always something that seems to be a little bit overwhelming. And I know how that is. I had a spiritual awakening that was pretty traumatic at the point of being where I was given a spiritual destiny, and I had to, quit my job and starve and die or starve and make it, so to speak, which I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. But you can become too emotionally overwhelmed with realizing that you're connected to the universe and that you're I want to say son or daughter of God. We're all children of the source, but for those of us who step up and say we're sons and daughters, we're kind of claiming responsibility for our actions, but we're also connecting again to the divine source one-on-one. We all need the Christ consciousness. So even though when I had my awakening, and you have your awakening, you're going to get away from Christianity. But you don't want to get away from the Christ consciousness. We need more than one teacher. So in your awakening, and depending on where you're at with your awakening, when I woke up, I thought I was Jesus Christ reincarnated. You might be listening to this right now or watching and saying, yeah, I feel like I am, but you're not, because Jesus isn't dead. He's an ascended master. But it's like being a stigmata. You have a deity such as Jesus that you love. We all love Jesus. Only a fool doesn't love Jesus. But you have to remember, his real name isn't Jesus Christ. It's Jesus, Lord of the Christ. The Christ is a consciousness. And so in having your awakening, you really have to have that kind of background information, I guess you want to say. In Sacred Dragon, which is what came to me during my spiritual awakening, I was given Moses in one hand and Christ in the other. And so if you come to me proper, I will act Christ-like with you. But if you don't come to me proper, I will be Moses, show the strength of God and the severity of God. Or I can show you the compassion and love of God, depending on how you're coming at me. I feel only those who are worthy get it. In today's world, having a spiritual awakening, be careful who you follow for teachers. You got to walk what you talk. You got to keep it real. Your awakening could be causing you to have paranoia through your dreams, through numbers, symbols, and you're going to have to really, really align yourself. Now, some people, have just had nervous breakdowns over their spiritual awakening. So, if you are experiencing dreams that are coming true, or dreams that you feel are connected to your past life or another dimension of where you might have lived, because there are more than one. We're in the third dimension now, communicating through the fourth dimension, preparing to enter the fifth dimension in our lifetime. And after seeing this pandemic on this planet, I'm so glad I'm studying Merkaba and preparing to create an astrobiophysical body for myself, because that is going to be the future, ladies and gentlemen, trust me. But going back to your awakening, so it can happen in different ways, your awakening. Your awakening should also be very pleasant for you in some way, because you know now that you're part of the bigger picture. You see the bigger picture. You see how everything in this physical world is temporary. You're wishing peace and love to everybody. It's not about Jesus. It's about the Christ consciousness which he represents. And that is where your heart chakra is. Your heart chakra in your body is your Christ consciousness. So if you're having an overwhelming spiritual awakening right now, that's the first thing I would suggest. Get into your heart chakra and activate your Christ consciousness. And if you can't because it's too emotional for you, maybe that itself is like being a stigmata with Jesus and you're crying and you're having this emotional breakdown, then you need to meditate and visualize yourself with your heart chakra being closed. And close down all your chakras for that matter. You know, our base chakra is like our instinctual chakra, so our chakras open and close at will as they need to. But it's like astral bleeding in one of your chakras. If your chakra is wide open and it's not closed and it's not balanced with the energy and flow, it's going to create an emotional imbalance in some way. Our physical and spiritual body talks through our physical body. That's important to remember. And depending on what kind of a spiritual you're having, if you're seeing numbers all the time, back before 9/11 was happening, one of my priestess at that time was having 9/11 experiences. She already had her awakening, but she was having a new type of awakening with her own psyche and receiving 911 all the time everywhere she looked. She had dreams about 911 and being on an airplane. She was tripping out, and it was becoming very overwhelming for her, and she confided to me about it, and I told her, you know, I'm not sure what that might be, but let's write it down and keep a track. And probably within, 9 months later, 911 happened. So sometimes, you do need to listen to your dreams. You do need to have a dream diary. And you should have a journal right now. If you're having an overwhelming spiritual awakening, have a journal. You start writing everything down. And you can separate down the road, once you reread it, what was fictional and what was real. What was just overworked imagination or psyche, even for that matter. You want to be able to, develop your psyche and keep it clear. Different types of aromatherapy. Lavender, as an example, is good to work with. Frankincense especially. Because if you just became spiritually open, you're like an empath right now. You're sensitive to everything. You're going to want to keep clean energy in the house. Burn some eucalyptus oil. Burn some frankincense. Keep your energy clear. Stay away from toxic people. Now, hopefully you're having a spiritual awakening, and maybe you did have a vice that wasn't good, or you had a personality problem that your awakening has fixed because you have a different vibration of life. You see things differently. You want your fellow man in the human race to succeed in some way. And if you're as God conscious as I am about Yahweh, the divine source, then you want to work with your Father in heaven, and you want to work for humanity and promote peace and love and empowerment. And that's what I'm doing through Sacred Dragon. So if you're out there and you're having a spiritual awakening and it is a bit overpowering, email me, travistidwellpodcast@gmail.com. I'll tell you who your assigned angel is. I'll give you some information. We can talk about it on the podcast. But I can help give you some information that can help you get through this safely, quickly, and easily, and empower yourself from this. Some people become so spiritually overwhelming. Oh my God, I can't think, and it's just too much. No, it's not. God never gives you more than you can handle. You just got to cowboy or cowgirl up and realize that how you've been raised and how society's raised people, how this country has raised people on Christianity, and that thought form does not work. I mean, these Christians, they back up greedy, lying politicians. Everybody wants the last word on this planet. Every religion wants to be the right one, but there is no right one. Everybody and everything is part of the living tree of life. And so having that awakening, you should remember that you're connected to everything in a very special way. Now, one of my favorite mantras is, I am that I am. If you sit down and put yourself in a pyramid of light and you repeat the words, I am that I am, I am that I am, I am that I am, and you visualize yourself as you say those words being connected to Yahweh, the divine source, it's going to empower you. It's going to do nothing but empower you. And right now, that's what you want. You want your awakening to empower you. You want your awakening to empower you. You need the right knowledge. Simplified Kabbalah Magic by Ted Andrews. Keys of Enoch, J.J. Hurtak. That's the hidden manna. That's food for everlasting right there. You have to be careful about the Bible. The New Testament's a fairy tale to some degree, to be very honest with you. The Old Testament's a great history book for the Hebrews and for our culture, because we're all born in the Adam and Eve consciousness. So that's why the Old Testament's so important for us. But I did find out I had a little bit of Jewish in me, a little bit, but which I was very thankful for. But Honestly, Irish, Italian, so many cultures are connected to this Adam and Eve consciousness. But then there are cultures who are not, like the Egyptian culture, who in their Book of the Dead tell you in the beginning of the book that they come from the belt of Orion. They tell you they're star seeds, as we are all star seeds. So as you're having your awakening and you have your journal, write down anything you're feeling for past life or deja vu in some way for yourself right now. Make notes of this, and then you can review everything later. I gave you a couple good book titles out there that you might want to look at. If your base chakra is tingling, root chakra tingling, that just means your kundalini is being stirred, because there's also this other thing about kundalini energy, which we'll talk about in another episode, but everybody has kundalini energy activated or they wouldn't be alive, because kundalini is a life force. It's just raising the kundalini in your body. Once you get that kundalini raised in your body, that's when magic starts to happen also on another level. So, basically this episode is designed right now just to give you information on how to maybe reset yourself with your spiritual awakening. Now, part of my spiritual awakening brought me to the Ten Commandments. Why? Because it comes from the Old Testament. It's the law of Moses, and Moses carries the strength and the severity of God. And then I have compassion and love, which comes to me from the Christ, who's also the divine Son, messenger of God. So it's important you have a good balance. Now, if you're having a hard time with your awakening and your higher self and your lower self and you don't know what to do, it's tough to quit things and vices all of a sudden because you have a new consciousness. Consciousness will help you shift and change, for sure. But you need to sit in a chair and relax, breathing into your nose, out to your mouth. You need to look down at your lower self and say, hello, lower self, how you doing today? And then look up at your higher self and say, hello, higher self, how are you doing today? Higher self, I wanted to introduce you to my lower self. Lower self, I want to introduce you to my higher self. And now that you've met, I want you two to create a balance for me. Because right now, everybody is feeding their lower self. Even in your awakening, you're still feeding your lower self. Now, that's why Christians go to church one day a week. But when you're spiritual, feeding yourself means, daily prayer, meditating during the month or week, being God conscious, reading and having the information and books available that's going to nurture your soul and put you on your own spiritual path, as well as connect you to the universal tree of life. But for those of you out there who think you're Jesus reincarnated, you're wrong. All you've done was you've tapped into the Christ consciousness. It's overpowering you, and it's been part of your awakening, and God bless you, but you'll get through it. Or maybe you're feeling you're a different deity at some point with the connections you're making, and that could be true. But as I said, if you want to, email me at TravisTidwellPodcast.com. TravisTidwellPodcast@gmail.com. I will give you some spiritual feedback and information for yourself. Looks like my priestess from Egypt here, Magic. She's like the goddess Bast. She represents the Egyptian temple cats that used to exist back in the day of the gods and goddesses. She's very noble and regal in her vibration. Can you see her on the podcast? Yeah, my cat, she's beautiful. She's the only cat I'm not allergic to. She's black and white tuxedo, and I love black and white because it's just like the magic I study and promote. And she's just a great, great soul. She's just a great being. She sleeps on my bed. She's just so beautiful, and she'll react when I call her name. Sometimes she'll even come to me a lot of times. But I've been very blessed by the god Bast, the cat god from Egypt, with her. And for those of you who are not aware, all cats come from Egypt. So if you're having a spiritual awakening, you got a cat at home, meditate with it. Talk to it, baby. You know what I'm saying? Because cats are very psychic and very mysterious in their own ways. But back to your awakening. Anything else I can help you with, give me an email. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. And also too, if your emotions are just out of whack right now, get some eucalyptus oil, boil a pan of water, like about a cup or two. Put a bunch of eucalyptus oil in it when the water's boiling, sniff it, walk through the house, and cleanse yourself. Keep yourself cleansed with frankincense, sage, things like that while you're going through your awakening. And make sure that you're getting proper sleep and that you're on a good diet and drinking plenty of water. And I can only thank the Lord God Yahweh this night and Sacred Dragon and Moses and Jesus and all my guides, Solomon, Hermes. I want to thank my daughter Athena for being my executive producer for my podcast, The Spiritual Life. And wish all of you peace and love out there and many blessings, and hope to hear from you. So be it.
Time has come to rearrange. Time has come for a change.